This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
And welcome everyone to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Pauline, and this is the 200th episode of the Sports Podcast. There's been a lot of episodes, a lot of sports being talked about in the last, I believe, year and a half of the show. There's been some new co-hosts, some old hosts, some hosts moving around, some guest hosts, all of that. So a lot of fun in this podcast happening, a lot of fun in the world of sports happening. We have to get into some info about the World Cup, some stuff about MLB, especially the banner raising and the honorable ceremony by the Chicago Cubs and that game last night against the LA Dodgers, as well as, of course, some basketball news as we jump into get ready to wrap up the regular season and moving forward into the postseason, and where some teams are hoping they will win and other teams will lose. So a lot to get into today as far as the world of sports. So we're just going to jump right into it. And so first off, today I wanted to start off the show with discussing the NBA, and then moving forward probably into baseball next and some football as we're getting ready for the draft as well. So literally a lot of little things to discuss in a lot of sports. So we're just going to jump right into it. So anyway, so starting off with the NBA, I'm going to give you guys a recap of last night's games as well as a preview of what to expect in some games tonight. Now, the big deal with the games these next few days, as this week is basically the wrap-up week of the NBA, is a lot of teams are, you have some fans like myself, Kings fans, where we're kind of just ending the season. You know, we're not really worried about what's going to happen because we already know that we're not in the playoffs, that we're not going to make the playoffs, unfortunately. So we are just ending out this season. And there are a couple of teams like us, you know, that are basically, we're done. We're done. It's okay. We'll try again next year. But then there's other teams and other fans who are really hoping that other teams will lose to either clinch that playoff spot or that spot to move forward into the playoffs, or to help your seeding be better. So I'm going to jump in first to the scores from last night. So there were quite a few games taking place last night. The Indiana Pacers went to go visit the Philadelphia 76ers in Philadelphia. They defeated the Sixers 120-111. Paul George with a stellar game last night as they're trying to secure that playoff spot. Paul George had 27 points, 2 rebounds, and 5 assists. So a good, strong game from him in that win last night. The Brooklyn Nets did not defeat the Celtics. They went to go visit the Celtics in Boston. Boston really fighting hard for that number 1 playoff seed. The Nets lost to the Celtics 105-144. Brooke Lopez of the Nets was able to secure his spot as the franchise's leading scorer, so top scorer as far as career points are concerned for the Brooklyn Nets. He now has 10,441 recorded points in after that loss to the Celtics. However, Jeremy Lin, last night he had 26 points, 12 rebounds, and 4 assists. And the Boston Celtics was led by none other than Isaiah Thomas. He had 27 points, 4 rebounds, and 3 assists in that win over the Nets. We'll talk a little bit more about their positioning in the East Side later on in the show. The Cavaliers fell to the Miami Heat. Now, the Cavaliers lost in overtime again, 121-124 to Hassan Whiteside and his Heat. Hassan, he had 23 points, 18 rebounds, and 1 assist. Deron Williams of the Cavaliers, 35 points, 7 rebounds, and 9 assists on the stat book for him at the top. Now, there's been a lot of talk, a lot of controversy, a lot of ill feelings towards LeBron James this morning after suffering that second loss by the Cavaliers. So Bron did not play in the game last night. Neither did Kyrie Irving or Tristan Thompson. Tristan Thompson still nursing that sprained thumb. This is his 4th consecutive game that he has missed for the Cavaliers. And Kevin Love, he was questionable for the game last night. He did decide to play. He wasn't feeling too good over the weekend. But what the problem is that the Cavaliers are kind of battling is not only are they losing recently, especially in overtime, not able to pull out those overtime wins, but King James was spotted partying in the club on Sunday evening. Then Monday was, reportedly nursing a strained calf, and is not going to play in tomorrow's regular season finale game either. So a little bit of ill feelings towards the King this morning. He hasn't played in a regular season finale since 2007, always, resting and preparing for the playoffs. But, there's a difference between, it's already kind of been some controversy and some talk and speculation on whether or not players should be resting as they prepare for the playoffs, let alone saying that you're resting because your leg hurts and then you're out at the club. So you got to stay inside if you're going to call in sick. That's a rule of thumb, a key for all jobs, no matter what job occupation you may or may not have. So anyway, so moving on to the Orlando Magic and the Chicago Bulls. So a real big game for the Chicago Bulls last night in Chicago. So first off, the main thing with this win for the Bulls is that first and foremost, the Chicago Bulls defeated the Orlando Magic 122-75. The Magic only had 13 points at the end of the first, whereas the Bulls had 34 points at the end of that first quarter. So that kind of just led the momentum and set the tone basically for the rest of that game. Definitely a big deal. Dwayne Wade and his squad are they're vying for that 8th place seed in the playoffs, but still battling it out. They've had kind of an up and down roller coaster of a season. So definitely that win is important, and hopefully, if things go according to D Wade's plan, they will just at least get the opportunity to perform and to play in the playoffs. That is their goal. He did say that that's been their goal, even when they were playing poorly, when they were playing well, just trying to get into the playoffs and then take it from there. Let's just get into the playoffs and then let's work it out and fight hard in the postseason and see what they can do later on that day or later on in the postseason. So definitely a big win for the Chicago Bulls at home against the Orlando Magic. I mean, that looks like a women's college basketball score in the playoffs, like a UConn versus an 8th seed type score. Again, the Bulls defeated the Orlando Magic 122-75. The Charlotte Hornets went on to play the Milwaukee Bucks. The Hornets fell to the Bucks 79-89. Giannis with a big game for his squad, 10 points, 11 rebounds, and 10 assists. A nice little triple-double for the big guy inside. So definitely a lot of fun games last night. A few more games that we have to recap when we come back from this quick break. When I come back, I'll give you guys some more, just a few other things to think as we get ready and prepare for the games, not only tonight, but a lot of these season finales tonight and tomorrow as well. And then, of course, like I said, we're going to discuss the World Cup. We got to discuss the MLB, as well as a sad story out of Northwestern. And Myles Garrett and the NFL draft is on the forefront of our minds in the sports world as we prepare for the NFL draft too. So keep it locked here. You are listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. I will be right back.
Want to find out what movies to go see? Then check out the GSMC Movie Podcast. It's your ticket to the latest movies, whether it's a new blockbuster event, romantic, comedy, or action flick. This show has got it all covered. They talk some what to go see now. Don't bother. What's hot on Netflix and everything in between. That's GSMCpodcast.com/movie-podcast. When it's all about the movies, it has to be this new show. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
And welcome back, everyone, to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Pauline. So there's a few more games that we have to recap from last night. The Washington Wizards did take on the Pistons at home for the last time for the Detroit Pistons at the Palace of Auburn Hills. The Wizards did defeat the Pistons 105-101. A big game for the Pistons. Like I said, it was their last game at the Palace, wrapping up 29 seasons at the Palace, 2 national titles at the Palace as well. We saw Dennis Rodman come out of there, Isaiah Thomas come out of there. Ben Wallace was part of the Pistons and that legacy at Auburn Hills. So they are going to be starting the new season playing in their new home, Little Caesars Arena in Detroit. So they're moving from Auburn Hills into the heart and the city of Detroit. So not moving far, just, getting a new home, new house, but still sticking with the Detroit Pistons. A very, Dennis Rodman started off the ceremony, the opening ceremony, delivering the game ball. They had pictures at halftime. Just a fun night for the Detroit Pistons, an emotional night, of course, for a lot of the fans, I'm sure, and just the organization as a whole deciding to make that move. The Red Wings will also be sharing that arena with the Pistons starting next season and getting ready for a new era of the Pistons. Something that the Kings did this season. We decided to move from the outskirts of Sacramento, where Forever Arco in Natomas, and then moving to the heart of downtown Sac with the Golden One Center. So definitely a fun transition. It's a fun and exciting time just from a Kings fan perspective, because we have this cool new arena. It's awesome and things like that. But then it is kind of sad, I think, because of all the memories that you remember at Arco Arena, at your original home that has been your home for so many seasons. And I've always said, I hope and I wish that the Sacramento Kings, would do like a throwback game and play at the old stadium, at the old arena, at Arco Arena, and go there and just have a throwback game. I don't know, just for the memories, just a lot of fun, because there are so many memories at Arco Arena. Maybe the Detroit Pistons could do something like that with the Palace as well. So anyways, the Spurs fell to the Trail Blazers in a wild last play last night, 98-99. Kawhi Leonard, the top performer for the Spurs. You're not going to see any Spurs players sitting out this week, according to the great Pop. Kawhi Leonard had 18 points, 1 steal, and 1 block. And Shabazz of the Trailblazer, he had 32 points, 6 rebounds, and 5 assists for his team in that win at home for the Blazers. The Rockets, they did fall to the Clippers just after, the beard said, James Harden, that winning is what the key factor should be when determining an MVP, but then they lost to the Clippers 96-125. So definitely something to keep in mind. And I don't know, I'm not hating on James Harden. I'm just pro Westbrook in the MVP race. The Jazz defeated the Warriors at the Oracle 105-99. The Jazz were able to get it done as Steph Curry did return to the game last night, did return back into play, 28 points, 4 rebounds, and 4 assists for Steph. But, they're having to find that new chemistry with all these superstars still this late into the regular season, as Durant was back in the mix. Steph Curry, they've been on this winning streak without Durant. And then last night, not last night, but over the weekend, when Durant came back, they still won. But Steph wasn't playing now. And now, with both of them back in the lineup last night, they did fall at home. So, they got a few more kinks that just need to be smoothed out as they get ready to move into the playoffs. So definitely some hard work still being put in. And I feel like if you're a good team and you want to win, you're ever evolving throughout the season, and even this late into the season, trying to find exactly, not necessarily trying to find what works, but still forever evolving. This is just one more hump that they have to get over as they look forward into the playoffs. Tonight we have the Charlotte Hornets taking on the Hawks, Oklahoma City Thunder taking on the Timberwolves. So Big Russ and Karl Anthony Towns. Russell's averaging 10 rebounds a game. Karl Anthony Towns, 12 rebounds a game. So we'll see who gets the most rebounds in the game tonight. The Denver Nuggets are taking on the Mavericks. The Pels are going to come visit the Lakers over at the Staples Center. And then my Kings are hosting Devin Booker and his Suns tonight at the Golden One Center. So definitely some things and some games to look forward to. I'm a Kings fan, but I am very much looking forward to that Oklahoma City and Timberwolves game because I want Russ to get another. I do. You guys know I'm a big Russ fan. So anyways, moving on, there are some other, with these last few games, there are some teams we talked about that need to lose in order for other teams to win. The Celtics are still going head-to-head with the Cavaliers, as the Cavaliers have lost again and the Celtics have won again. So they're vying and fighting for that number 1 spot in the Eastern Conference. Definitely a big deal. The Celtics did win their regular conference, the Atlantic Conference, as of yet. So the Atlantic Division, their division, not conference. I apologize. I don't know why that was weird for me to say. The Atlantic Division title, which is their first win of the division since the 2011-2012 season. So definitely a big deal for them, and that momentum, I'm sure, is going to push into Wednesday's game. So definitely something the Cavaliers need to be aware of, if you ask me. So anyways, we're going to shift gears now into the world of football, but actually soccer, if you are like me from the United States. Because anyway, so the World Cup. Now, when you bid for a World Cup, to host the World Cup, it could take a very, very long time to get a decision, and it takes a long time. The process, it has to deal with a lot of travel, a lot of meetings, pitching. You got to do a lot of presentations. A lot of money is involved when bidding to host a World Cup, and it usually takes several years. It's usually a long, long time to really pitch your city or pitch your country as the host for the World Cup. But in the race for the 2026 2026 World Cup, as the United States is leading that bid, we might be able to find out as soon as the end of this year. There was an announcement yesterday on Monday that the announcement of the bid by the U.S., Mexico, and Canada, that there was a significant discussion about what steps will be taken for this bid. And according to a few high-ranking officials within, is that they are planning to make a proposal as early as this May, so next month, to the FIFA's Congress that could really accelerate the process, which honestly a lot of people are expecting it to take until 2020, but could be announced as and decided as early as this year. So they have a lot of course, required specifications, and a lot of things are expected from countries that frequently host big sporting events. So, it's a lot of that goes into it. There is also timing. There is when it comes to presidential elections, when it comes to where the World Cup is being hosted before. And at that time, there's just a lot of things that go into, especially tension between nations can also play a factor. So that's another reason why it takes such a long time, because there is so much that goes into it and so much involved with deciding who is going to host a World Cup and when is the right time. And because it does, and it's interesting because things that are happening now or in the very near future affect something that's not even going to take place till 2026. So this is a far out event, but things that are taking place as far as politics are concerned, as well as just how many times your country has hosted big sporting events, when they're going to host sporting events, who is set to host the next few that are already decided. So there's a lot that goes into it, and a lot of regulations as well. So definitely something to look forward to, especially you big soccer fans. I know Ben is a big soccer fan, and so that does play into it. So we may know as early as the end of this year, but we still gotta wait till 2026. So still, but then you can get that process rolling the earlier that So anyways, that's gonna jump us into our second and final commercial of the episode. And then when I come back, we have to discuss, of course, the Cubs and the NFL draft. So keep it locked here. You are listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Pauline. I'll be right back.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL combines, they got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. So we're getting ready to wrap up this episode, but of course, we have to discuss the Chicago Cubs finally having their home opener. There was worry about a rain delay and all of that. There was, as far as weather delay, whether or not the weather would hold up and allow them to raise the banner in front of their sellout crowd last night. So the Cubs hosted the LA Dodgers, and in a great fashion. It was, a huge night for them. So Rizzo, basically, for just like a quick recap of the excitement, he hit a game-winning single off closer Kenley Jansen in the ninth inning, and they were able to break that tie going into the ninth inning. The Cubs beat the LA Dodgers 3-2, and it's exciting because you get to raise a banner. It's your home opener. It's 108 years in the making, and you win. It's just an awesome and spectacular time. John Lester, he said it was a special night. He pitched 6 innings. Definitely something that'll go down in my book as something that I'll remember for a long, long time. So, they had to push back the start of their pregame festivities. But, when you're a part of the sellout crowd, that's 41,166 crazed fans, I don't think it matters. You're out there to celebrate. You're with others that are happy to celebrate. Families are out there, old people, young people, new people, people that flew in, lifelong season ticket holders, all of that to enjoy that which is championship life, so they were definitely able to enjoy all of that. The weather didn't damper the mood, and of course, winning against the LA Dodgers could not have been more sweet for the Cubs in that win last night. And then moving on to the NFL, so Myles Garrett, he's projected to be the number 1 overall pick, right? So he definitely had some words to say. So he's a defensive end coming out of Texas A&M, and projected to go number 1 overall in the draft. And there, if Cleveland, the Browns, don't take him, it will be probably one of the biggest shocks of the draft. But and it would probably throw everyone into a doozy. So Garrett, he did have some things to say. So he did talk to ESPN, the magazine, when they were doing their little pre-draft Q&A, and he said, he will punish the Browns for the next decade and knock their quarterback out every time they play if they don't take him with the top pick. So basically he was saying, and he did say, because I'll be a difference maker from day one, and I'm not going to be in any trouble. I'm just going to make plays and bring a good atmosphere to your organization. He said, and I'm going to start winning and winning now. And because if you don't draft me number 1, I will punish your team for the next 10 to 12 years. I'll knock your QB out of the game every time we play you, and I'll have to kick the hell, bleep, we'll just say the heck out of number 1, whoever it is. So basically, that's his competitive side speaking. He's, if you don't take me number 1, then I'm always going to be mad at you guys. So I'm always going to be coming for you specifically. And I'm going to do everything in my power to make you guys regret it, because I'm going to show you what you guys are basically missing out on and what you could have had if you don't take me number 1. So I kind of like the competitive streak in the guy. I like it. You guys know I like that tough competitive spirit. So that aggressiveness as well. So I'm looking forward to it. Of course, it's going to be a fun and exciting time. I love the NFL draft as well. So we're looking forward to that. And before we get ready to wrap up this episode, a really shocking story came out of Northwestern from yesterday on Monday. So a Northwestern rower has passed away after drowning from falling overboard. He was a rower. He was recovered in the North Shore Channel, which is a suburb of Chicago, which was announced yesterday. His name was Muhammad Ramzan. So it's very, very sad. He fell into the water during morning practice that started around 7:30. 7 other rowers and their coxswain, were not able to locate the freshman, and 2 people were taken to the hospital for evaluation after searching in the fridge water. It's really, really cold. I used to do row back when I was in college, and that was over in Southern California, and the water was cold there and cold then early in the morning. And this is the East Coast side. The search continued into the evening when they discovered him around 9:30 p.m. So definitely a sad time. And this is, a club. Crew is a club at the university, but definitely a sad time for not only his family, but the club and the university as well. So definitely, we just always got to be the best that we can be every day, because we don't know when it's going to be cut short. It can be cut short doing something that we love, such as this young man rowing. It can be done just in an everyday thing. You never know when it's your time. So we always have to do our best to live our best and to show those that we love around us that we do truly love them. So with that, that's going to end this episode of the podcast, the 200th episode of the GSMC Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Pauline. Ben will be in tomorrow, and then Anthony and I on Thursday. I'll talk to you soon.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch, whatever it may be.